Here's Luke Willson for another edition of Luke Who's Talking. Luke, you're hanging out at the folks' house in LaSalle, Ontario. What's going on in LaSalle right now? Tell me all about it.
You know what, Jay? It's definitely actually a little cooler temperature-wise than the Toronto area, but with the wind chill, it's warmer. So I almost feel like I took a trip down to Florida after being in the GTA the last week. I'm probably going to try and attempt to go tanning compared to what we've had to deal with at 9 Channel 9.
Yeah, 9 Channel 9 Court, the address of the TSN studios right across from the Scarborough Town Center, is not a warm place right now, but the rest of the country's feeling it too. Luke, we talked last week about the fact that the Lions and Ravens maybe blew what could have been their best chance to win the Super Bowl by losing last week. And now we have the Bills with another crack at it against the Chiefs. And listen, nobody's saying Patrick Mahomes has fallen off, but his play wasn't up to his usual lofty standards this season. He's certainly not in the MVP conversation this year. So is this, in your mind, Buffalo's very best chance to finally topple their rival?
Absolutely, Jay. Absolutely. And you said it first and foremost. I think this is probably the weakest Patrick Mahomes has looked at and the offense has looked in this kind of run that they've had. Now, I do think Patrick Mahomes still can be Superman. So that's the one thing that's been different about this week, I think, in years past, is in the past, it was like, hey, Josh has got to be the one to put the cape on and be Superman. If Kansas City wants to win this thing, in my opinion, it's got to be Patrick Mahomes to do that. They are against the grain here. And I'll also say this, the weakest part of Buffalo's team has been their defense. They're kind of middle of the pack statistically, but where they're not middle of the pack is taking the ball away. So I look at this game and I say, Buffalo, you got Josh Allen playing at a wildly efficient level. He has been dominant when it comes to protecting the football. He's been dominant running the ball, and when he throws it, he's been very, very efficient, and if he needs to, he can ring those numbers up. The offensive line looks great. The run game has been very, very solid, and defensively, you lead the league in takeaways. This is Buffalo's year to do it. Now, that being said, Jay, it was also Baltimore's year, and it was also Detroit's year, just like you said. So unless Buffalo gets in their own way, I think it's their year to do it.
Okay, so what you're saying is, because my next question was going to be who wins this game, you feel that Buffalo is going to win it on Sunday.
I do. And as I say that, I feel a sheer sense of terror ring through my body because I am betting. I am going against the bad man. You know, in Game of Thrones, we call him the Night King. It's Patty Mahomes on the other side of the ball, and he's been disrespected. And all week, people have said, oh, he's rigging the game now. You've got to change the rules. And I'm sure, similar to the MJ documentaries, not to go over to basketball, he's probably taking that personally. But I'm still going with Buffalo this week because Josh Allen, I think, is 1A, 1B with him. I think if he needs to, he will make that play. And again, they've protected the ball all year long. I don't expect them to come out here and blow it like we saw last week with Baltimore, or like we saw last week with Detroit. I do not expect that out of Buffalo.
Okay, I can't wait for that one. Also excited about the NFC Championship game. It's a battle between a couple of NFC East rivals and the Eagles and Commanders. And the Commanders are nearly a touchdown underdog on Sunday, Luke. Eagles are not only the favorite in this game, they're now the Super Bowl favorite. But do you think there's a possibility that Jaden Daniels can pull out another one against Saquon and company?
No, I don't. I mean, I really don't, Jay. But I didn't think there was a possibility. Before the Commanders fans get mad at me, I didn't think there was a possibility they were winning last week either. So clearly, I'm a little cold on the Commanders. This is what I'll say about this Washington Commander football team at the moment. You look at the first round against Tampa Bay; that was a pretty evenly matched game. And to me, the two biggest plays in that game were things that Tampa Bay didn't do well, which was snap the football. There's a fumble that led to points. That was an Operation Snap issue, and a sack late in the game that led to the Bucs having to kick a field goal and giving Jaden Daniels the ball back. That was also an Operation Snap issue. You look at last week, the Detroit Lions came out, and I do tip my cap. I'm not trying to discredit Jaden Daniels. We'll get there. But the Detroit Lions came out and basically puked all over themselves. 5 turnovers. It was an abomination. I couldn't get over what I was watching. And Jaden Daniels took advantage of that. And Jaden Daniels is going to be the face of this league. So before the Commanders fans get mad at me, I think the world of this guy. But at the end of the day, the talent gap between Philadelphia and Washington is quite large. So I don't see it happening. I think that the other thing is if Philly starts getting a little frantic, you've got Saquon Barkley, and there is nobody stopping this man right now. Not with the offensive line in front of him, not with Jalen Hurts, who can also run the football. Saquon is possessed. He is a man on a mission, and I think the Eagles get it done.
Luke, you're very close to the beautiful city of Detroit, Michigan, where everyone's still licking their wounds over the Lions. Lost to the Commanders last week. And not only did they lose to the Commanders, Luke, they lost both of their coordinators in recent days. Ben Johnson, their offensive coordinator, goes to the Bears as their new head coach. Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator, goes to the Jets as their new head coach. How concerned are you, Luke, for Dan Campbell losing both of his coordinators in 1 week?
Concerned. I am concerned. I still think the Lions are going to be a very, very great team next year. I really believe that, Jay. I think they're going to win a lot of games. As far as win as many games, I think that's where the concern comes in. First off, you see Ben Johnson twice. And the idea that Ben's been in that program, knows a lot of what's going on, he's going to be able, in my opinion, to at least split those games. Now you look at the rest of their division. Minnesota is going to be very strong. I expect J.J. McCarthy to be great next year. So you sit here again, and this is a team you beat twice this year. Both were somewhat close. Second one got a little bit away from Minnesota. Kevin O'Connell's crunching film right now. We got to get over the hump of Detroit. And then I look at Matt LaFleur in the Green Bay Packers. Another great team, playoff team. Obviously, they got bounced early. He's doing a hard look in the mirror as well. How do we get over this hump? How do we start beating Detroit? You got 3 teams that are going to have absolutely be gunning for you in your own division. You lose a couple of those, and again, now all of a sudden you're not the 1 seed. It's tough. And when you bring in new coordinators, Jay, the next thing I'll say is it helps having a veteran quarterback, which they have. It helps having a veteran offensive line, which they have. But there's still going to be some growing pains. So I expect the Lions to have a great year, 12 wins. I would be very surprised if it's another 15-win season.
Is it potential, though, that less heart attacks in the Michigan area because of less trick plays with Ben Johnson being gone? Like, is it possible it's a more conservative offense next year?
I think so. And that, Jay, it's funny because you say that, and I'm not a big trick play guy, especially for that team. But I do believe that Dan Campbell can kind of sit back now before he makes announcements of who he's hiring and what kind of defense they want and really adjust. I look at the defensive side of the football, and you have Aaron Glenn there, and he's a huge man coverage guy, and he's stuck to his guns, and he loves playing man coverage. And for the majority of the year, it did work for them to a degree. And now I think Dan Campbell can kind of sit back and say, is that what we want to do? Or should we be more of a soft zone team? Let's go get a guy who specializes in that and maybe be a bend, don't break defense and look at the bigger picture here and say, hey, let's just be great at red zone defense, hold teams to field goals, and have our offense try and run wild, that sort of thing. And again, I love Ben Johnson, what he did with this offense. But if Dan Campbell believes, running the football even more so than they do is the next level to chew up more gameplay, let's go get an offensive line-minded, offensive run game first-minded OC. So Dan Campbell does have a lot of decisions to make here.
Luke, we will chat with you after the games on Sunday. And by then we'll know who's playing in Super Bowl 59, so we can chat about that too. Looking forward to Sunday. We'll see you then, buddy.